Herman, I would love to be there today. Unfortunately, I can't. I very quickly want to talk about what I've been thinking about in the last 6 months. It's something I call the diffusion of everything. We live in this remote world for 6 months, and I believe that it's going to continue long after we have a vaccine, long after COVID is over. If you think about cities and big urban areas, you think about the Randstad. We organized around cities because it was efficient. And we had lots of economic activity in that. And economic policy by governments is based on basically cities and the industrialization of those cities. But what we've seen in the last 6 months is we can work remote. And those assumptions around working in cities and working together are going to be diffused, distributed, and radically reconfigured. And I believe, and our research has shown, and I've talked to dozens of people around the world in the last 6 months, is remote, work from home, and hybrid, and those are all different things, but they're definitely going to be more the future. This is not black and white. Not everyone is going to be remote. Not everyone is going to work from home. But even if 20 or 30% of our employees begin to move towards a hybrid model, that's still going to have a significant impact on how we think about work. And what does this mean for employees, businesses, society? I'm seeing big tech companies already make some important announcement. Google says, come back July 2021. Uber says, come back July 2021. Facebook, come back October 2021. And in Europe, we're seeing things like Siemens. Siemens says, we are going remote. 380,000 people are going remote, was their announcement about a month ago. And I want to unpack this. Firstly, let's use two different definitions. Remote says you no longer live near work. You could live 1,000 kilometers away. You could live in 1,000 kilometers away is definitely out of the country, in the Netherlands. You could live far away and you may come to the office, let's say 6 times a year. That's remote. Hybrid says you still live in the Randstad. You do not go 5 days a week, from Leiden to Amsterdam. You may go 2 days a week and work at home or in a co-working space in Leiden the other 3 days a week. So I want to draw that distinction between remote and hybrid, because I think we just say remote when a lot of times people mean hybrid, and they're very, very different things. Lots of things driving this. People are cautious about their health. People now are reevaluating their career and life priorities. People are optimizing their financial life in many parts of the world, and remote is giving that opportunity to do so. Some people are enjoying work from home. Other people are not enjoying work from home. When I talk to 20-somethings and 30-somethings, they did not sign up for a career sitting in their bedroom for the rest of their life. That's a pretty bleak future if you think about it. We do get socialization from work that is very hard to do in a remote world. And I see big companies radically rethinking the office. A very large US company with an office in London was said, you can only enter and exit the offices at these times during the day. You have to decrease headcount by 50%. You cannot leave during the day, and you can have no visitors. And they're saying, why do we have an office at all? We have to figure something out if those are the new constraints. So my view is when you really fast forward this notion of remote and even hybrid, it's a big diffusion. The cities diffuse, talent diffuses, multinationals diffuse, Silicon Valley itself diffuses. The concentration of startups and venture capital, that ecosystem, we're seeing an acceleration perhaps of its demise, perhaps of its decline. Venture capital diffuses. Everyone's not going to run to Sand Hill Road to get their money. Sand Hill Road is going to have to go where the deals are because things are being diffused. Unicorns diffuse. More unicorns are going to be created in unknown parts of the world. Capitalism diffuses. Fintechs and banking diffuse. So my view is that we're going to hit a tipping point. If enough companies say remote working or hybrid working is the new normal, then the other companies are going to have to adopt it to stay competitive. It becomes a so-called standard benefit. So if Google and Facebook and Apple and Tesla and Uber, if they're all saying, hey, remote work is now part of our company culture, hundreds of companies are going to have to follow them. And if the tech sector does it, do traditional Dutch companies do it? And I think over time they will. We used to need to see people in the office, and it was this command and control, and we had to manage them and see what they're doing. Well, businesses are running 6 months later, and people are proving that they're responsible and they can act independent. And so I think we're going to move towards hybrid working as a standard way of working, and even we're going to move towards remote. You live far away. So if you follow this thesis, here's 7 questions I ask companies to think about now. How do we evolve our culture? How do we identify, attract, hire, coach, and motivate employees if they're remote? Right? We know when we're on these Zoom calls, people are looking down and multitasking all of the time. Are you comfortable hiring somebody if you don't see them face to face? How do the serendipitous moments happen, right? You see the boss accidentally and you can have a 10-minute conversation about getting on the right project or how you get promoted. How do we think about mobility and turnover and advancing people in our careers? How do we adjust to this new cadence of remote work, right? I talk to people that are doing 50 plus Zoom calls or team calls a week, 50. And they're just scheduled back to back for 6 or 7 or 8 hours a day. There's no time to do real work because they're just back to back. And at 59 minutes, they have to jump off to get on the next one. And they're doing that all day long. What happens to a high performance culture? If you look at my neighborhood, Silicon Valley, we read about Google and we read about Facebook. They do 80% right, and what they do 20% organizationally is poison. You heard it here. It's very bad because it's trial and error and it's experimentation. But they have evolved culture and a way of working that generally is good. Now the question becomes, in this new remote work, this diffusion of everything, can they still have a high performance culture in a hybrid or remote model? Remains to be seen. I still think the physicality of people together is far more interesting than us working remote. And what does this mean for organizational performance and effectiveness? What happens to large city centers? I read research in Sydney recently, and I'm sure there's similar research in the Netherlands, where we're expecting office capacity to drop by perhaps 50%, and commercial property values to drop by 40 to 50%. What happens in the Randstad if that occurs? And we may not see this in the Netherlands, we're certainly seeing this in the US. I'm seeing large tech companies saying, if you relocate from Silicon Valley, which of course, as you know, is very expensive to live, and you want to go live in Chicago, I need to give you a 15% pay cut. Or if you move to Denver, I'm going to give you a 20% pay cut. And even though the cost of living is far better than that 20% differential to a place like Denver, psychologically, that doesn't feel good to get a salary adjustment down. But people are already talking like this. So these are the kind of questions I frame. I really, really wish I was there to enjoy that drink with you. But since I can't, if we have 1 or 2 questions from Herman, let's do it now.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for this. Yes, I do have some questions. What does this mean for leadership as such?
Good leaders will thrive in this organization. The best leaders hire smart people, give them big challenges, and then get out of the way. The kinds of leaders that empower their people, the kinds of leaders that give their people room to explore, the room to lead, to do their own thing, will be absolutely successful in this new environment. The kinds of traditional leaders that manage top down, I'm going to tell you what to do, I'm going to sit on your head, I'm going to I'm going to micromanage you, will fail in this environment. So if you adopt new leadership styles of creating an environment for your people to succeed and truly getting the hell out of the way, you're going to do fine. If you try to traditionally manage down, you're going to blow up and be done. There will be no room for that in this remote or hybrid environment.
The second question is I have the future of companies as an entity. I mean, individuals could work for 3 or 4 companies at the same time these days.
I agree. This environment is ripe for that. And the good organizations will try to build their ecosystems of affiliates and contractors, and they'll try to absorb the best talent wherever that talent is in the world. This is not a new idea. Go look at a guy named Charles Handy. And Charles Handy talked about portfolio work already 30 years ago. Irish guy, he's a professor at London Business School. He's in his 80s now. But when I was living in the Netherlands in the 90s, he was very influential in my own career, thinking about portfolio work. Now, the Netherlands, this is to their advantage. The Netherlands is the largest, because of tax reasons, it's the largest contractor market in the world as a percentage of the labor force. So Netherlands can do this well, and not just working for Dutch companies, go work for European companies, US companies, right? The hybrid and remote model gives people anywhere in the world with marketable skills an ability to get ahead. And so this is good news for contractors. It's good news for the Netherlands because it will allow what they do well, contract work, to be an international resource in that regard.
And the last question I have is about, will this excel innovation strategies in a certain direction? Yes or no? You could say yes, because we adopted quickly to the new reality based on all kinds of technologies we have at home. On the other hand, the serendipity, like you said, how innovation comes around in companies and between people. This is done in a different way now. How do we create our innovation strategy for companies if, on the one hand, we miss leadership, on the other hand, we are doubting what a company is at all?
I'm generally negative and pessimistic on it. We know large organizations sitting in the same Torin have a difficult time innovating. There's structural problems, there's organizational problems, there's financial problems, there's behavioral problems.
About this last year. Yeah.
You know all of that. Now, when they're distributed, I'm going to be, if they continue to operate how they've been operating co-located, now that they're dispersed and spread out in hybrid, I think it's going to be more confusion, more chaos, and more slow moving. That's part A of the answer. Part B of the answer is, as these companies continue to be financially hammered, CFOs and CEOs are going to cut back further on innovation budgets.
Right.
And it's very traditional thinking, but that's what companies do. They're going to save themselves. They're going to say, where can I save cash? That far stuff that's out there, innovation, cut it. I need to make my quarter. I need to make my numbers now to tell the financial community I'm okay.
All right. Thanks, Mark, for now. I mean, this is short and snappy. This will steer the discussion on this side of the ocean for now. Next edition, I reckon you'll be here again, or at least I hope.